Let me tell you something that will fundamentally alter how you see the most important decision of your life. Marriage as it exists in the modern world has transformed into something your grandfather wouldn't recognize. And the men who fail to understand this transformation, they pay for their ignorance for decades. You see, there's a profound asymmetry in how men and women approach this institution. Men enter marriage with the psychology of romantic partnership. Women, whether consciously or unconsciously, enter it with the psychology of security acquisition. And that difference, that's not cynicism. That's biology meeting culture in the 21st century. Now, before you dismiss this as bitter or cynical, understand this. What I'm about to share isn't about becoming resentful. It's about becoming conscious. Because only when you understand the actual nature of the exchange can you make decisions that serve your development as a man. Only then can you build relationships based on mutual respect rather than unexamined assumptions. But here's what most men never realize until it's too late. Think about your own childhood for a moment. What were you taught about marriage? From the earliest age, boys are fed a narrative. Find your soulmate, fall in love, live happily ever after. Every Disney movie, every romantic comedy, every cultural message reinforces this framework. Marriage is presented as the culmination of romantic love, a partnership based on mutual affection and emotional connection. But here's the problem. This narrative is a modern construction, roughly 200 years old, sitting atop millions of years of evolutionary psychology. For most of human history, marriage was explicitly understood as an economic and reproductive alliance. The romantic overlay is recent, and it's created a dangerous blind spot. Men, with their tendency toward systematizing and their biological drive to protect and provide, are particularly susceptible to this programming. You're wired to be the hero of the story, to sacrifice for those you love. This isn't weakness, it's a profound strength. But in the context of modern marriage, this very strength becomes a vulnerability that can be exploited. And so you enter the most consequential legal contract of your life, believing it's about love, when in fact, and this is crucial, you're signing a document that the state enforces with economic penalties, romance and contract law, two entirely different domains, dangerously conflated. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Women approach this same institution with a fundamentally different psychology. Not because they're manipulative, but because their evolutionary pressures were different. For hundreds of thousands of years, a woman's survival and her children's survival depended on securing resources and protection. This created deep psychological mechanisms, attraction to status, resources, and competence. These aren't conscious calculations. They're built into the female psyche as deeply as your drive to achieve is built into yours. In contemporary society, this manifests as what researchers call hypergamy, the tendency to partner with men of equal or higher status. Women consistently prefer men who earn more, have higher education, possess greater social status. This isn't shallow, it's strategic, it's unconscious, and it's mismatched with the romantic narrative they've also been taught. Here's the complexity. Women genuinely believe they're falling in love. The feelings are real, but underneath those feelings runs a parallel evaluation system. Can this man provide? Can he protect? Will he maintain his status? The emotion is authentic. The calculation is automatic. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Women aren't lying when they say they love you. They're operating from a perspective where love and security are genuinely intertwined. But here's where this creates problems for men who don't understand it. This fundamental difference in frameworks creates what economists call information asymmetry. And in any transaction, the party with better information holds the power. You're playing checkers while she's playing chess. You're thinking in terms of emotional commitment while she's thinking in terms of life optimization. You're focused on building something together while she's evaluating whether you're worth the investment. Not maliciously, just naturally. This asymmetry means you enter marriage making decisions based on incomplete understanding. You're committing to provide, protect, and sacrifice without fully comprehending what you're signing up for. Meanwhile, her decision is based on a more complete assessment of the exchange. Most men discover this truth only after marriage, often during a crisis. You lose your job, your business fails, your status drops, and suddenly her behavior changes dramatically. The warmth cools, the respect diminishes. The affection becomes conditional, and you're confused because you thought love was unconditional. But here's what you must understand. This isn't a personal failing in your partner. This is a category error in your understanding. You thought you were in a romantic relationship. You were actually in an economic partnership with romantic elements. The pain of this realization can break you down. Or, and this is crucial, it can wake you up to reality and allow you to build something genuine on a foundation of truth rather than illusion. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Let me break down the mechanics. Look at your own life. What are you actually providing in a marriage? Primary income and financial security, housing, utilities, insurance, retirement planning. The average married man contributes 60 to 70% of household income, even in dual income marriages. You're not just providing for yourself. You're becoming responsible for an entire lifestyle structure. Beyond money, you provide psychological stability, emotional leadership, problem-solving capacity. When things break, you fix them. When decisions need to be made, you make them. When threats emerge, you handle them. This isn't gendered stereotyping. This is the actual division of labor that emerges in the vast majority of marriages. But here's what's often invisible. You're also committing your future. Your career choices become constrained by family needs. Your risk tolerance decreases because you're responsible for others. Your dreams often get deferred or abandoned entirely. You're not just giving your present, you're mortgaging your future. And none of this is wrong, by the way. The capacity to sacrifice for those you love is among the highest virtues a man can develop. The problem isn't the sacrifice. The problem is entering into sacrifice without understanding its full dimensions. Every year in marriage represents an opportunity cost. Time you could have spent building your business, developing your skills, pursuing your mission, money you could have invested in your own growth, energy you could have directed toward your potential. These aren't trivial considerations. They compound over decades. Now, what do men receive in return for this substantial investment? The traditional answer is companionship, domestic support, child rearing, and physical connection. But let's examine the reality. Companionship. You can get this from friends, often with less complexity and more reliability. Male friendships, in particular, tend to be more stable and less conditional than romantic relationships. The companionship argument doesn't hold when examined critically. Domestic support. In modern marriages, this is increasingly shared or outsourced. You're expected to do half the housework anyway. The meals can be delivered, the cleaning can be hired. The homemaking that was once central to the exchange has been largely commoditized or equalized. Physical connection. And here's a brutal truth backed by research. This aspect of marriage drops dramatically after the commitment is made, especially after children arrive. The National Health and Social Life Survey found that married couples average 58 encounters per year, declining steadily with marriage duration. You're trading unlimited potential options for a declining supply, but here's the critical point. Even these benefits are conditional. Conditional on your performance, your earning capacity, your status maintenance. When you're successful and providing well, you receive appreciation and affection. When your performance drops, so do the benefits. Epictetus taught, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen. The Stoic approach isn't to resent this reality, but to see it clearly and act accordingly. This isn't about blaming women. Female psychology evolved to prioritize security. That's not a moral failing. It's a survival strategy that worked for millennia, but you must understand it to navigate it wisely. And the asymmetry gets worse when you consider the exit terms. Here's where the business deal becomes truly one-sided. In what other contract do you maintain full obligations after the contract is terminated? Courts typically divide assets 50-50, regardless of who earned them or who ended the marriage. Everything you built during the marriage, sometimes even before the marriage, becomes subject to division. Your retirement accounts, your business interests, your property, split down the middle. But unlike a business dissolution, your obligations don't end. Alimony requires you to continue funding your former spouse's lifestyle, sometimes indefinitely. Child support requires payment regardless of custody arrangements. You're funding a relationship that no longer exists. Here's the perverse part. The system creates incentives for dissolution. Women initiate 70 to 80% of separations. Why? Because the financial penalties fall primarily on men. She can exit the relationship and maintain significant financial support. You cannot, and unlike any other investment, there are no guaranteed returns, no requirement for her to maintain the relationship, no obligation to provide affection, respect, or even basic appreciation, no penalty for ending the marriage. All the obligations are yours, all the options are hers. This is what I mean by information asymmetry. Most men don't understand these terms until they're already signed. They enter marriage thinking about love and partnership. They discover, sometimes decades later, that they entered a contract where the state holds them to obligations but provides no enforcement of reciprocal duties. So given this reality, what should a conscious man do? Now, if you're feeling angry or betrayed hearing this, that's natural, but that anger will harm you if you let it calcify into resentment. Bitterness is a toxin that poisons the vessel that contains it. Men who learn these truths and respond with hatred toward women don't become stronger. They become enslaved to their own resentment. They make their past suffering the center of their identity. Here's the crucial distinction. Understanding female nature is not the same as condemning it. Women evolved with different priorities because they faced different survival pressures. That's not evil, it's evolution. Your job isn't to judge it, your job is to understand it and make decisions accordingly. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This truth doesn't block your path, it illuminates it. Now you can walk forward with your eyes open. When you understand the game being played, you can choose whether to play, how to play, or whether to create an entirely different game. Unconscious men are victims of circumstance. Conscious men are architects of their future. The goal isn't to avoid women or relationships. The goal is to engage with reality as it actually is, not as you wish it to be. Only then can you build something authentic. But consciousness alone isn't enough. You need standards. If you're going to enter a high-risk venture, and marriage is the highest-risk contract most men will ever sign, you need screening criteria. First, does she contribute financially, not just consume? A woman who builds alongside you is fundamentally different from a woman who arrives to enjoy what you've built. Look for evidence of contribution, not just appreciation. Second, how does she treat you when you're not performing well? This is crucial. Any woman will respect you when you're successful. The question is, does her respect persist during difficult times? Test this before marriage, not after. Third, does she have reasonable expectations about lifestyle and finances? Or is she comparing you to social media fantasies and her friends' highlight reels? A woman with grounded expectations is worth her weight in gold. A woman with inflated expectations will drain you dry. Fourth, has she proven loyal when loyalty was difficult? Many women are loyal when things are good. Far fewer remain loyal when circumstances turn challenging. Look at her history, her character under pressure, her relationship with her family. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. But we also fail to prepare for real risks because we're afraid to imagine them. Don't make that mistake." These standards aren't about being harsh. They're about being wise. They're about respecting yourself enough to require reciprocity. And even with good standards, you need to understand the alternatives. Here's something crucial. Marriage isn't your only path to a meaningful life or even to meaningful relationships. You can have committed relationships, live together, build a life together, even have children together, all without signing a marriage contract. This preserves the relational benefits while avoiding the legal liabilities. It's not traditional, but tradition isn't serving men well in the current legal climate. Many of history's most accomplished men either married late or not at all. Newton, Kant, Beethoven, Tesla. Their work became their primary relationship. There's no shame in prioritizing your mission over marriage. In fact, there's profound dignity in it. Some men find better relational dynamics in cultures where women haven't been trained to view marriage primarily as resource extraction. This isn't about exploitation. It's about finding environments where traditional complementarity still exists. Remaining single gives you complete autonomy over your time, money, and energy. You can pursue risks that married men cannot. You can devote yourself fully to your development. The social pressure to marry is enormous, but social pressure isn't wisdom. The question isn't, should I marry? The question is, given the actual terms of modern marriage, does it serve my development as a man? Answer that honestly. This isn't about running from commitment. This is about being committed to reality and to your own flourishing. That's not selfishness. That's self-respect. Despite everything I've said, genuine partnerships between men and women are possible, but they require something rare: mutual consciousness. Both parties must understand and acknowledge the exchange. She must recognize her natural instincts. You must recognize your provider instincts. No pretense. No romantic delusion. Just two people who see themselves and each other clearly. The relationship should serve both people's development, not just one person's security. Ask, are we both becoming more capable, more conscious, more fulfilled through this partnership? If the answer is no, you're in the wrong relationship. Real partnership reveals itself under pressure. Financial stress, health crises, career setbacks, these are the tests that reveal character. A woman who stands with you during your darkest times has demonstrated value beyond any contract. This kind of relationship isn't common, but it's worth waiting for, rather than settling for the transactional default. But here's what you must understand. You cannot attract this kind of woman until you become this kind of man. High-quality women with genuine character are attracted to men of substance, competence, and mission. If you're drifting, aimless, or weak, you'll attract women who see you as a project or a resource, not a partner. You cannot maintain high standards for others while maintaining low standards for yourself. Work on your body, your mind, your skills, your character. Not to impress women, to become someone worthy of a genuine partnership. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Become the man worthy of the relationship you want. Your mission must come first. A woman should enhance your life's work, not become your life's work. When she's the center, the relationship becomes unstable because her approval becomes your foundation." This is something that young men today desperately need to understand. You don't complete yourself through a relationship. You complete yourself through the development of your character and competence, through the pursuit of meaningful goals, through the cultivation of virtue and skill. When you reverse this order, when you seek completion through another person, you inevitably become needy, desperate, unattractive. You hand over your power to someone else's mood, someone else's evaluation, someone else's changing feelings. The man who has built something meaningful, who has developed genuine competence, who has a mission larger than his romantic life, this man has options. More importantly, he has self-respect. He doesn't need a woman's validation because his validation comes from his work, his growth, his contribution to the world. And paradoxically, this is exactly what makes him attractive to high-quality women. Women are drawn to men on a mission, not men seeking a mission through them, but men already engaged in something meaningful. There's nothing more attractive to a feminine woman than a masculine man devoted to something greater than himself. Build yourself first. Build something meaningful. The right kind of woman will recognize and respect that. She'll want to support it, not replace it. She'll see your mission as something sacred, not as competition for your attention. Ultimately, marriage is a choice, but it should be a conscious choice, not a default following cultural scripts. It takes courage to deviate from social expectations. Your family will pressure you. Your friends will question you. Society will tell you you're incomplete without marriage. But social pressure isn't wisdom, and popularity isn't truth. The Stoics taught self-sovereignty above all. Your life is yours to live according to your own understanding, not others' expectations. If marriage serves your development, truly serves it, then proceed with eyes open. If it doesn't, have the courage to choose differently. Think in terms of decades, not years. Where do you want to be at 50, at 70? What kind of life will serve your continued growth and contribution? Make decisions from that perspective, not from fear of missing out or loneliness today. The examined life requires examining our deepest assumptions. Marriage is one such assumption. Question it, understand it, then choose consciously. Look, I know this has been confronting. These truths are uncomfortable because they challenge narratives we've been taught since childhood, but discomfort is the price of wisdom. The Stoics understood something profound. We suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about events. You can judge this information as reason for bitterness, or you can receive it as the liberation it actually is. You are not a victim of marriage. You are not a victim of female nature. You are not a victim of modern culture. You are a conscious agent with the capacity to see reality clearly and make decisions accordingly. That's power, not powerlessness. So here's what I want you to do. Take this information, sit with it, test it against your own observations, then make your own decisions, not based on what society tells you, but based on what serves your development as a man. Because the life you build from a foundation of truth, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be, will always be more solid than a life built on romantic illusions. If this perspective has shifted something in you, subscribe to PsycheLens. We're building a community of men who choose consciousness over comfort, truth over tradition, and wisdom over wishful thinking. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Take responsibility for your life, and make decisions worthy of who you're capable of becoming.